Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Imperfect Show. I'm Susanne, this is Jeremy, and we're here this week to talk about just kind of a follow-up of what we talked about last week. We talked about mentorship last week and just kind of what that can look like in your life, why that's an important thing to have, and kind of how to go about finding mentors and people in your life that can be that for you. And this week we're talking about friendship, and we're going to talk about just kind of the difference between mentorship and friendship. And when you think about that and what we talked about last week as far as being a mentor, having mentors, how would mentorship be different than friendship?
I think that you can have friends in your life who also serve as mentors. If a mentor is someone who helps see things from an outside perspective and really helps you to move forward, that's kind of in a nutshell. That was last week's episode. So if you didn't watch it, you just got the whole thing. You don't need to go back and watch it now. But if that's a mentor, it's someone from the outside, they give a different perspective and they help you move forward. That can be a friend, but a friend is not necessarily a mentor. So I think a mentor can be a friend, but I don't think a friend is necessarily a mentor. There's a difference between someone who serves in your life to just help see things and counsel you through things and move you forward, and what we're going to talk about today, friendship. So there certainly is a distinction. I think there can be a lot of crossover. Again, I think a friend can be a mentor, but I don't think a mentor necessarily has to be a friend.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I've had mentors in my life that have been maybe friends first, and as I've gotten to know them better, I've realized, well, you kind of have this area figured out in your life that I kind of need some help with, and kind of having that. But then I've also had people in my life that have just been mentors, so I definitely agree with that.
And to that, I think just as we get started, we'll talk about what a friend is and kind of how we define a friend. But often someone who is mentoring needs to be someone who's not as concerned about being your friend. Yeah. Sometimes a friendship relationship prevents someone from doing the work of mentoring. And, it's an important thing to remember. It doesn't always do that. In fact, sometimes being a friend is the motivation to serve as a mentor, but speaking hard truths and clear truths and, all those things can be more difficult if you're worried also about your friendship. And so just understanding there is, they can be the same, right? But the roles are very, very different.
And when you're concerned about keeping your friendship and maybe saying some things that could hurt the other person's feelings, or maybe not quite being able to be as clear with them or as maybe forward with them as you're trying to help them as maybe in that mentor role, if you're also concerned about keeping a friendship with them, then that can kind of maybe keep you from saying some things or speaking into their life in a way that maybe you need to. Really.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you are a good friend, a real friend, then you're concerned about people being better and doing better and all of those things. But there's a natural limitation to friendship where you're moving from, as my dad used to say when he was pastoring, you've gone from preaching to meddling. You can go from being a friend to being more than that. And the more than that may be necessary, but that may also have some kind of an implication to the friendship as well. So how do you define friends? That's a good place to start. How do you define a friend, not friends, but a friend?
A friend. I think this is really it's hard for me to know, like, how do you define a friend? Because some friends can be so many different things to you in your life. You might have family members that are like friends to you. You could have maybe distant family members, cousins, or, whatever, that are like friends to you. You can have, mentors that are friends. I kind of feel like a broad, and I feel like in our culture today, this is kind of frustrating to me because we use that word so kind of loosely, Me personally, the word friend, I would really only count those that I feel like are closest to me. I would say my friend. An acquaintance or someone that I kind of know, or...
We use that pretty broadly too. Yes. In English, at least, we use it very broadly. A friend. It could be somebody you just met, or somebody you see at the gas station twice a week or something.
Yeah,
that's my friend.
He's my friend. When actually, they would be an acquaintance. And so for me, I do take the distinction of those two words very seriously. And I also think it can mean different things in your life as you are, moving through life. So what is a friend? Really, it's someone that there's so many different definitions, but in the Bible talks about, there's a verse that says a friend sticketh closer than a brother. And you kind of think of those people that are in your life that that you can say anything to and they're not going to judge you. You can go to them when you're having a hard time and they will not just say things to you that are helpful to you, but that also come alongside you and lead you in the right direction. They're people that are moving forward in life the same way that you are, that have same kind of standards and life goals, and in whatever role that you have in your life, they're going to encourage you to move forward in the right way. And so to me, that's kind of when I think of a friend, they're those people in my life that are moving forward in the same way as me, that I can go to, and they're not going to judge or question or wonder, like, why is she doing that? They're always going to think about who they know me to be, and then think that of me. Like, even if I'm having a bad day, even if I'm saying something that might not be nice or whatever, they're going to think the best of me and think of me, the best version of me, when they think about what I'm saying. So for me, that's what I kind of think about, when I think of a friend.
Yeah, the distinction is, it's hard to make a distinction, but I think, friendship has to be based on trust. We could talk about all those things, but friendship is a relationship that is unconditional. Now, we talk about unconditional love, and what does that mean? Unconditional love is, I will love you regardless. You don't have to love me in return. If you behave badly, I'll still love you. I'm deciding to love you. It wouldn't be the same thing. We're not talking about the same thing. That's a different maybe level of friendship or relationship. But I think friendship is based on the unconditional aspects of relationship. I am not your friend because of what you can do for me. I'm not your friend because you provide access to this group of people. I'm not your friend because we have a business deal and I need you to help me with that. We're not friends because of whatever. I think friendship, real friendship in a way, it transcends a lot of these other relationships that we would talk about. And it's based on trust. I believe, what you just said, I believe the best in you. I'm trusting the best in you. And so we can have a relationship. I'm not going to question. I'm going to trust that you're doing the right thing. And if you violate that trust, that may change this relationship. But I'm trusting the best in you. But to the extent that it can be, it's unconditional. Now, again, there are conditions. We all have conditions. If you're unkind to me, we're not going to be friends. If you violate trust in a way that is irreparable, our friendship is going to end. It's not marriage, where it's going to end. But to the extent that it can be, it's an unconditional. I just want what's best for you. I enjoy spending time with you, and we have a relationship. And
you're not friends because of, maybe you're friends because of a business deal, or you become friends because of a circumstance that you find yourselves in or something, but you don't remain friends because of what you can get out of that person for that. And it kind of makes me think about that show we did about love and what that looks like, and it is really that doing what's best for the other person, and you're really in it based off of not what they can do for you, but what you can do for them. And I would say that would be similar in friendship.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of ways to think about this, but you can think of a business career, and you spend 40 years working with the same people every day. You know them, the ups and downs of their lives, their kids because you've been around or you've heard stories. Their struggles, when they got a new car. I mean, everything about them, right? They moved, about that. But the day you leave that company is the day you stop talking to them. Well, it might have been a very close relationship, and there's a lot of information and a lot of shared, kind of camaraderie and a relationship there. But it wasn't a friendship because what you had did not transcend the thing that brought you together. And that's maybe a good way to look at it is, does your relationship transcend your circumstances? And if it does, then I think you can count it as a friendship relationship. Now, there are casual friendships, again, it depends on how you define these things. But a close relationship based on, I want to do what's best for you and I enjoy spending time with you, that's a friendship. And that type of relationship, it's bigger than distance, it's bigger than time. Often it's bigger than a lot of those limitations to other relationships.
Yeah, and there probably needs to be some level of transparency and all of that too. And just transparency and honesty and being willing to be that for each other, not just that surface, like how was your day, and knowing the things that they like or the things that they like to do, the places they like to go. It probably needs to have some level of transparency and kind of openness that allows you to have that true type friendship. And I think that verse that I mentioned in the Bible, it talks about, there's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. That's kind of what I feel like that means, that sometimes with your siblings, it's just kind of like, you know each other, but you don't really maybe talk about your feelings or your deepest, desires, or maybe are not truly transparent with them the way that you could be or would be with a friend. And as a woman, this is maybe, I might kind of sound like a silly thing, but I kind of think of it as like the people that I'm like okay with seeing me without my makeup on. I know like those people are my friends, because that to a woman, well, to a person who likes to wear makeup, and I usually don't like to go outside the house without makeup on, just because it gives me like a sense of put togetherness and like, you know, I'm ready to face the world. But that's kind of always a test for me. Like, who am I okay with seeing me like that? And that's kind of what I think about when I think even of having that transparency with someone that you know, you let them see you without your makeup on, kind of.
And that transparency is really what defines the depth of your relationship. So, you know, again, depending on how you define that, it's what you allow people to see beyond the surface that really defines how deep your friendship is, and honestly, probably how long your friendship will last.
Yeah.
But we have to have people in our lives who we share levels of transparency with. Otherwise, it's possible for us to remain behind kind of the curtain of what everyone believes we are, and that's a dangerous place to live. There have to be some people in your life that can see beyond that see the real you for who you are, because your friendship is built on trust. They're not judging you. They're the kind of people that you can say, I've been thinking these things or doing these things. This has been going on in my life. They're not going to judge you, but because they care about you, they will try to help you. And that's not everybody. And you need to be careful when, you know, having a transparent relationship with someone. I think we've talked about this a little bit in the past. Not everyone has built the trust that is needed to share those deep things and to be that transparent with. But you have to have those people in your life. And this is something that I think is often missing, is the understanding that you have to have not just acquaintances, but you have to have close friends, you know, and they're hard to find, but one or two. You have to have some people in your life that can see you for who you really are, and you trust them. You know they're going to love you regardless. They're going to care about you regardless, but you have to have those people in your life. Why is it so important? And this is, you know, one of the things we try to do when we talk is express how important these things are, because life is imperfect. Life is broken. Life is hard. We make dumb decisions, and I think any of us left to ourselves will probably make some really bad decisions. You know, I think back to some of the friends that I've had in my life, and had I not had those people in my life, I don't know what I would have done. And other times I had people in my life I thought were friends that either took me the wrong way or allowed me to go the wrong way, and, you know, in hindsight revealed that they weren't friends. Why is it so important that people have friends, you know, or a friend, someone that's transparent with them in their life? Why is that, you know, again, not something you should do, but something you must do?
Yeah, it's kind of like what we were talking about last week with mentorship. It's not something that you maybe is suggestive or optional.
It's a pretty good idea, right?
Yeah, really something that you should have in your life. And it's exactly what you said, because if you're struggling or having a hard time, it's those people in your life that will encourage you to move forward, to you know, keep going when you don't want to. I was looking at a verse in the Bible too, in Ecclesiastes, and that where it says two are better than one, because when one falls down, there's going to be someone to pick them up. But, you know, woe is that person who is by themselves when they fall. Right. It's kind of like, wow, that's like a horrible place to be if you fall, because there's no one going to be there to pick you up. And I always think about that when I think about, you know, friendships. Do I have people around me that are going to be able to pick me up when I'm falling? Because it's much better to do life with other people than to do life, you know, on your own. And I even have been thinking about this week in the situation that we find ourselves in right now, you know, where we are with this quarantine and all these things that we're having to go through, and social distancing and all of that. We're just not made to live life by ourselves. And so when we think about friendship, I think that's exactly what it is. We're just not designed or made to have to live life by ourselves and have no one around us to help us. And I think this would even go beyond, you know, we've talked about marriage a little bit, and, you know, spouse and loving each other in that way. And I would say this would even go, you know, beyond that. As a woman, I don't think it's really fair to expect your husband to be, you know, your best friend and put that expectation on him, because a woman needs other women in her life that are going to encourage her to be who she needs to be a godly wife, and to do that, and the husband the same. And it's not really fair to put that on your spouse. And so having people in your life to help you, you know, when you're falling, when you have questions, when you're, you know, not really sure what to do in the situation, you need to have people that are able to encourage you and to help you, because we're just not designed or meant to kind of figure it out on our own.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that you just said. I should have looked up the quote ahead of time, and I didn't, but I can't remember who said it. But the idea that to say your spouse, and this is speaking directly to men, say my wife is my best friend, really can be a cop-out. It's an easy answer. It's one that everyone likes. It looks really good on memes, on a social media post.
Right. Yeah.
But the reality is that we need, men need someone who get it, right? We all have thoughts that we're not proud of. We all, do things that we're not proud of. But in context, they make a lot more sense. I think a man understands the contexts around a lot of the things that guys are dealing with that a woman just could never understand. And likewise, a woman understands the context around some of the struggles that other women are having that a guy just couldn't understand. We're not wired to understand those things. The quote, again, I can't remember who said it, but I remember the quote. He said, in this quote, that to say that your wife is your best friend is a cop-out. She should be your most intimate friend, and certainly she should be. But we need someone with a same-sex understanding of the serpentine passages of our heart. That's the quote. I'll think about who said it later. But the serpentine passages of our heart, what does that mean? It means someone who has experienced the same twists and turns in their mind and in their heart that you've experienced. So you can't bluff them. You need someone in your life that can see you for who you really are, both men and women. Now, your spouse should be your closest friend. In that sense, your most intimate friend. The Bible tells us that Genesis chapter 2, those two become one. We've talked about this. They're one flesh. And as one flesh, they really operate and think as a unit, as one. But it's like the left side and the right side of the brain. They don't always get it. They don't always sync up. And having those friends who are on the outside who can speak truth lovingly and unconditionally is so important. And if you are pushing that onto your spouse, it really is unfair. And you're pushing on them a need that you have that they are not capable of meeting. And since they're not capable of meeting that need, it's going to create frustration, probably on both sides, anxiety that you don't care about me, you're not even trying, or you try to unburden yourself to your spouse and they just don't get it. They just don't get it. And so it creates other problems. It's absolutely important, not important, it's absolutely essential to have those friends, to have those people that can speak truth to you. I think of Jesus when he sent out the disciples. He sent them out 2 by 2, not 1 by 1. He sent them out 2 by 2. He called a group of disciples around him. Throughout the New Testament, when churches were started, they were started by groups of people. You just never see anyone alone in the New Testament as the church is started and as Christians are really beginning to move throughout the world. That's God's plan, and it's God's plan in our relationships as well.
And it's important to have friends because of that, so that we're not alone. But I would feel like, even you giving the example of the New Testament, and as the church was starting, they were going out, and they weren't going out with people who didn't have the same beliefs as they did. They were going out with people who were not going to encourage them to share it with someone else. And so I think this is a really important part to, it's important to have those people in your life so that, you're not doing it alone, and so that, they can encourage you. But it's really important, especially when we're talking about being married and all that, to have people in your life that are encouraging you to do the right thing and to move forward in the right way, and just not even in marriage, just in life in general. And I this has been really something I feel like we've been talking to our kids quite a bit about here recently, is having the right kind of friends, and why it's important to have the right kind of friends, and what are the right kind of friends. And the right kind of friends for anyone are the kinds of friends that are encouraging you to do the right thing, to move forward in the right way. So people that are living life the way that you are. And, for us, it's, we are Christians, and so we're trying to live life according to the Bible. And so if you're a person like that, you need to have those people in your life that are encouraging you to move forward in that way. And that are going to tell you, that's not really a good idea to do, or who are willing to tell you that because they care about you and are moving forward in that way. And it makes absolutely no sense to me when people have friends in their life who are not encouraging them in that way. And if you are a believer, to have friends around you that are not unbelievers and they're your closest, they're the closest people to you, and they're not the people that are going to encourage you to be having the right kind of marriage, to be doing, what God wants you to do. And it makes absolute no sense to me when people who say they are, believers wanting to live life according to the Bible and how God would want you to, but the people that you've made closest to you are not believing in the same way. And so they're not going to be the people that are going to be encouraging you to stay with your husband, to be the kind of mom that you should be, to encourage your kids to do the right thing. And they're not the kind of people that we should be having as the close people in our life.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's absolutely true. And I think that's a distinction between acquaintances. It's okay to have people in your life that you don't necessarily believe, in sync with. And that's, I think, sometimes misunderstood, particularly as adults. You need to be more careful with kids, I think, but as adults, it's okay to have people in your life that you don't see eye to eye with on every single thing, or even a lot of things. There are people I enjoy hanging out with and talking to and whatever, that I don't necessarily agree with, socially or, religiously or whatever. But the difference is those people have a place where your friends speak into your life. They speak into how you live and what you do. Imagine you want to learn how to play basketball, and so you get the really nice guy who is really good at soccer to come and help you out. That just doesn't make any sense. We would never do that anywhere else in our lives. If you want to become a better basketball player, then you get people around you who know how to play basketball and can teach you. It doesn't mean the soccer player guy's bad. Some people like soccer. I don't understand why, but some people like it. But it doesn't mean he's bad. That's not what you need in that relationship. And life is bigger than that. And I think that's what friends are about. And that's one thing we've been trying, as you mentioned, to communicate to our kids. It's fine to play video games with people. I don't know how any of that works, but everyone can log on and play video games at the same time, whatever. That's all fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you also need some friends in your life who are going the same way you are, trying to accomplish the same things you are, and will encourage you along the way.
Yeah. And it's just something that's not optional, like we've said before, is you just really need to intentionally have that in your life. So if you are someone who doesn't have friends, and you maybe have been encouraged, okay, maybe this just brought that to your attention. I was in that place in my life a while ago, probably about 5 years ago. I realized that I did not have anyone like that in my life that was close to me that I could really go to when I was struggling, that would encourage me in that way. And I think I had just kind of done that to myself. And so I was really in a place where I had to make a decision that was something that I was going to pursue. So how would you say to someone, okay, if you don't have any friends in your life, and I was talking to somebody actually the other day, and they were kind of like, how do I even do that? Like, how do I, if I don't have any friends, am I just going to be like, hey, you want to be my friend? Which is fine when you're 5 on the playground. But if you're an adult, how do you pursue friendships with people that you're kind of, you're realizing you need that in your life?
Well, that's the challenge, right? I think a couple things. I think one is do it before you need it. A lot of times we find ourselves in the pit of despair, to quote the Princess Bride, and then we start looking for friends. He's like, where are my friends? I feel so bad about my life. Why don't I have friends?
And that's the woe is that person.
Woe is that person. They're by themselves. That's not the time to start finding friends. Now, if you find yourself in that spot, find a friend, but don't go through the process that we'll lay out here, right? Just find someone who can help you, who can encourage you. If you're in that spot, you probably need to find someone that is more of a mentor than a friend, someone who can help, dig you out and get you on your feet, and do that right now. Don't sit there and feel bad about yourself. Find a professional. If you need to find a professional, someone at your church, reach out for that person. But finding friends before you're in that spot is really important. So that's why we try to convince you this is really important, right? Do this, even if you don't feel like it. But we don't always feel like we need this. I'm doing fine. I've got my friends at work. I've got my thing. I'm okay. It's really interesting to me. I mean, fascinating to look at. This is maybe a bit of a turn, but suicide rates at different ages and different stages of life. One of the highest demographics for suicide are people 65 and older, which is fascinating for a lot of reasons. You could say it's health, it's finances, it's other things. Often it's just loneliness. They've, again, lived an entire life around people and then got out of that career. Maybe they moved, whatever, and they realize, I've known a lot of people through my life, but I don't have friends. So find them before you need them. And the best advice I think I could give to anyone, the advice we try to give to our kids, the advice I've tried to follow in my own life and others, I've tried to encourage this way, is go to the kind of place where the kind of people that could be your friend congregate. So say, what in the world does that mean? Well, you have to know what direction you're moving before you can decide what kind of friends you have. And if, in our lives, most of our friendships, our close friendships, have come either from our church or the work that we do, because we're all on the same life mission. We're all on the same, we view life the same way, and we're moving the same direction. Our work is different than maybe a corporate workplace. I mean, we're very close, and it's built on friendship and that. And so, we're all moving the same way, but you have to know what you're looking for. You're looking for people who are encouraging and helpful and, share your set of beliefs, whatever those are, and then go to the places where those kind of people are. And, again, the Bible says to have friends, you need to be friendly. And, I get it. The best thing is to be sitting somewhere and have someone come sit down next to you and say, hey, let's be friends. Or, to have kind of that organic process that takes place when you meet someone and you get to know them and you find you have shared interests and all that. I get all of that. I hate going to places where there are a lot of people. I just do. I'm not wired that way. I don't think either of us are really wired that way. And so it's getting outside of yourself and doing that. It might be recognizing people that are that way and inviting them to come over and spend time with you and doing some things that are uncomfortable. Any relationship requires work. A relationship that is based on trust, that becomes a friendship, and is then eventually a transparent relationship where you can share with someone. It's a long process, and it requires a lot of work. But intentionality, and it's being very intentional. So that's, as adults,
it's very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable. I think on the other side of it, though, and this is something you've been working with our kids about, is helping kids to develop those relationships, which can also be extremely challenging.
And it's, it's similar. It's really realizing that, I have to find them in the right place, and they have to be people that are, encouraging me to do the right thing. And even as kids, you can have friends that will encourage you to do the right thing or not. Friends that have bad attitudes when you tell them that my mom, or my dad want me to do this certain thing that we're not going to do because, they don't want me to do this or they don't want me to go there. Friends that respond correctly to that. It's kind of similar, and where are you going to find those? And I think the biggest thing, and this can be applied, I think, for us as adults too, it's a lot easier for kids to make friends, but I feel like it's maybe harder for them to keep friends because they don't always have the right kind of guidance in knowing how to do that. But I feel like this can be applied to adults as well, is, finding them in the right place, but then also having the ones, the friends that will encourage you to do the right thing. I think the principles are kind of the same. And by encouraging you to do the right thing, I think one of the things that I feel like I've been saying over and over and over again to our kids is the way that they talk to you about other people, or the way that they act around you about other people, they're going to do that about you, to someone else. And so if you are watching them or even listening to them talk about other people, or be mean to other people or whatever, that's what they're going to either do to you or going to say about you behind your back, or that's how they're going to be. And people are going to associate you with that particular person or that group of people. So I think for adults that can be the same. You are going to be associated with the people that you spend time with. And so that's something that I really feel like I've really been trying to encourage our kids, is if you don't like the way that person is talking about someone else, or if you don't like the way that they're acting or the attitude that they're having, then maybe it's not a good idea to be their friend, because you're going to either become like that or people are going to associate you that you're that kind of a person too, even though you might not be. And so I think I've heard you say this before, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I think
Brad
for
Herron
kids,
quote. It's completely ripped off of Brad.
Herron.
So, Brad, thank you.
But yeah, so I think that's really, for kids, that's huge, because the people that you choose to identify with or choose to associate with are, most of the time, if you choose to make them your close friends, that's, you're going to be a pattern for your whole life. And so I feel like that's kind of how I've been encouraging our kids recently, is just in some of those those things with their friends.
Yeah, that old birds of a feather flock together. It really is true.
Yeah.
And you may find yourself in a group of people you don't necessarily relate to. You spend enough time with them, you will become like them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your future will become whatever it is they drag you through. So yeah, really important conversation. We could spend a lot of time on this, but mentors are very, very important. You must have them in your life. You have to have people who can look out your situation from the outside and say, you know, I think you should do this. If you would do that, based on my experience, this is where you would end up. And, you know, we talked about real mentors in terms of like physical people. Maybe it's a group of people. Maybe it's, you know, books. We've talked about different things last week. But then friends, these are not the same. You need friends. You need close people in your life that can see you for who you are, love you for who you are, and help you, encourage you, pick you up when you fall down, or just walk through life with you. And you know, it's not easy. It requires work. Sometimes it doesn't feel worth it. You're probably going to get hurt in the process. You are. It's unfortunate, but it definitely happens. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have friends or that every person is like the friend that hurt you.
Yeah.
Put yourself in a place where you can meet the type of people that are doing the things that you would like to see in your life, and begin investing in those relationships.
Yeah, and I think if I could encourage anyone with one thing is to just be willing to do the uncomfortable things that it takes to make friends. Yeah. Because for people that don't, and you said, I think we're both like you said, we're both like this, that we don't like to be around groups of people. I'm not the one that likes to take the first step. I think one of the things that was a trigger to me that I was maybe not okay with making friends is when a couple of our kids were small, I was at the park and there were other moms there and I'm like, I don't really want to talk to any of them. So I just kind of sat by myself on a bench and I saw all them kind of making friends and I'm like, I'm kind of okay with that. Yeah. And that's not really okay to, you know, put yourself in that place. So be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations and step out of yourself and realize that's something that you need to have in your life. And
that you need to have in your life. So whether it's the most comfortable thing for you or not is really not the most important question.
And we just need to be willing to maybe take the first step, because who knows, that other person could be feeling the same way that you are and is needing a friend just as much as you are. So
yeah, it's great. Hopefully that was a help to you. It's a perspective that we don't always have. And find someone that can speak into your life. Certainly we all need friends, but we need to be friends because there's someone else out there that needs you to be a friend to them as well. So hit the subscribe if you haven't, like, share, comment, be helpful.
All the things.
All the things. And let us know if there's anything you would like for us to talk about. We'd love to do that. And look forward to hearing from you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.